morning. This is the Board of Directors meeting for Maryland Environmental Service, November 20th, 2025. It is 9:30 and we do have a quorum, so we are going to get started. First order of business is approval of the minutes. If everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes, please offer any amendments or corrections, and otherwise we will assume they are approved by consent. Okay, thank you. Dr. Glass, Executive Director's Report. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Next slide. So, make sure the numbers are accurate. I incurred $233.10 in expenses related to transportation and parking associated with the trip to WEFTEC, and Deputy Hertz incurred $107.91 in expenses related to parking at the College Park Climate Literacy Conference and some travel around the state to sites. Next slide. Oh, and I just want to announce that, per statute, when we're going to travel at all, Deputy Hertz and I will be going to Winter Mako in Cambridge, woo-woo, and
Is that in December?
It is in
Yes.
December, so it's before the next board meeting, so I just want to give you a heads up.
Really?
But it will be live, lots of great talks, including some on AI. And just highlight on this engagement, did attend the Maryland Department of IT's AI community practice last week, which was cut short due to technical difficulties. But that doesn't happen with our IT department. And also, if you Google what academia is thinking when it comes to AI automation, the future of work, there are several National Academy of Science, medicine, engineering, that are really nice 3-hour symposiums on the practice. So just attended a couple of those over the course of the week, over the course of the 3 weeks, and that's all the highlights for a lot of those are our normal folks. And then 3 AI companies or companies proposing to do AI work. TeamSolve, Deputy Hertz and I have been talking to them. I have passed some stuff to Mr. Sharma, and I'm going to get him involved. They have some ideas of how, just looking at our free information, how they could use AI, particularly in our safety work. And Verbosity has a platform. They're helping use what do you call it? Open sourcing, but with Baltimore, they're doing it for Department of Public Works in Baltimore, where the public can comment on trash and vacant homes and things to act on, and they send teams out like we do for collection in Montgomery County to fix those sites and to clean them and then document that they have been cleaned by crowdsourcing via an app. So both of these organizations are just pitching to me/us to possibly use their technology or engage with them. So we would, of course, put out a full procurement in any of these ventures, and it would flow through Ms. Condra's procurement office, not through the executive office. But we talk to people just so we can learn what's out there and what policies. WSSC and DC Water just DC Water hired 2 PhD AI folks. We don't have DC Water style money, but and the utility conference, I am participating. I am no AI expert, but I'm on the volunteer portion of a session that's on AI and how it's used in the water and wastewater utility sector. That's going to be in March at the Live Casino. And I think that's it. One more slide for engagements. Deputy's engagements. Deputy did sit through the long annual MES DNR Park Service meeting. I did say hello to our partners at DNR. We hosted here in this room. And then we restarted our MES SHA quarterly meetings with the deputy. Well, he's the chief engineer. Mr. Andre Futrell came over, and we had a nice talk to him about partnership. And she also has taken over the BWI partnership breakfasts from me because it is much closer to her home to get there at 7:30 in the morning. Next slide. So continuing on with the theme, we are we are a Microsoft 365 organization. We have a long-term contract with Microsoft to provide the services. So our backbone is Microsoft for all of our office work. And we have a new systems administrator who came from Microsoft. So, hey, we can poach people from Microsoft. Isn't that amazing? Better lifestyle, I'm sure. So we had on November 12th. She gave a lunch and learn that she titled A Copilot Overview. And in this presentation, she demonstrated Microsoft Copilot, the capabilities of the free versus the paid version, security and compliance, prompt ingredients, and I'll pass around. I should have gave this to Ms. Fuller to put on, but just for the board members present, I'm just going to pass around a slide that shows the 4 sections of a good prompt. So she went over that, and I keep it next to my computer now. And so approximately 40 MES staff have access to the paid version of Copilot, which is deeply integrated with all of Microsoft 365. So Outlook, Microsoft, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They have access to all our files. And I'm going to say some terms that I really don't know, but we have IT people that can answer them. We have enterprise grade security. So role-based access controls, audit logging, and encryption related to our files that are held by Microsoft, and Microsoft has access to these because they're all in Word and Excel anyway. But really neat things you can do with querying all of your files to build things and to analyze data and to get answers to the files. And you actually can use, the main thing I learned was you can use the backslash like we used to use in coding back in the day and is used in the internet, and you can put it in our prompt, and then it will say which files would you like to embed in the prompt. So you can grab files of data to make a particular question to prompt, make a particular request, make a particular prompt. So anyway, she offered to give more lunch and learns at the end of her presentation. And of course, we accepted. So we will have future lunch and learns that are focused on, well, actually, what can we use Word to do, and what can we use Excel to do, and how do you have particular prompts? Early on, a few years ago, when I shared a book with Mr. Coleman on making prompts, if you used anything with numbers, it really didn't work well. But there's been great advances in the use of Excel and taking data and dropping it down. So the other thing I wanted to point out, I share with a few of the board members, I haven't shared with all of you, but I will email this press release to you. On the 13th, Governor Moore announced a landmark AI partnership to transform state service delivery. And now that was made with a partnership between the state and Anthropic, a leading safety and research company, and Percepta, a company I did not know, a general catalyst transformation company. So they are going to be doing things. One point of the press release was that they are engaging with our great client partner, MDE, to fast track permitting. So Percepta engineers have worked hand in hand with the MDE and the Maryland Department of IT to digitally enable self-service portal for permitting and for environmental site assessments. So this is all to make it easier, faster, and more transparent to invest in Maryland. So the state is moving in multiple different directions at multiple levels of state engagement on the AI front. And I'll of course keep the board members abreast of what we're doing. And I'll make sure I get that out to Ms. Fuller to send to the whole board, so no one is missed. Next slide. A few new points on my long-term projects list, working on getting some of them scratched off. Now, I'll say that the third bullet on the left, the PMP course in-house, we are at the point where we will put out a procurement for, we actually had more people that were willing to take the PMP course than I originally assessed. I thought it'd be 10 or 20. So we limited to the cost of 20. But it was actually much larger than that. About 50 of our staff said that they'd be interested. So we'll do it as a pilot and see how people take the course and pass the course and become certified. And they'll have, of course, have to agree, just like tuition remission, that they'll stay for at least a year after they become licensed. And but we also in this last few weeks, decided to launch an audit of telework accountability, make sure that people haven't forgotten our policy and all the requirements in the policy, the board approved policy. And some new ones that Deputy Hertz was probably being too aggressive and volunteering for. We're going to work on the delegation of to make sure that we get these going. All the ones in black are ongoing, and we're going to try to push these along over this next 6 weeks, and maybe we'll have some in January. Some of these will get crossed off, but I think that is the end of my director's report. 3 weeks and fairly succinct. Any questions I'd be happy to answer, comments?
I do have one quick question about the PMP course you were just explaining.
Yes.
So you said more than double interest?
So we
than your
never had this has been a goal
Mhm.
only because they had it at m.tso. Although they had a staff member that was a licensed instructor who bought the book and gave it in-house. We don't have a licensed instructor that's on our staff that we could, slip a few hundred, couple thousand or so. Anyway, so I had staff in the executive office research after another staff tried. We won't talk about that. But anyway, had us research who out there sells the service for us to bring an instructor in.
Uh-huh.
Now you can go, and we have people that go to UMBC or other universities to take the course. But maybe we could get a deal, on scale, if we put
Yeah.
10 to 20 people. I assume we maybe have 5 from each operational group. We have more than that that are interested. Of course, we have to, when we do that, being a billable organization, as we're doing the training, we're gonna take people off production, pay them for the entire week. They would do a 40-hour course. They would be committed. They have to commit within 90 days, I believe, to take the test in order to get the certification. So we just decided to try to investigate, see if we can do that. It'd be helpful to do it, like we have a manager and supervisor's course, to allow people to have it, because people can put it at the end of their name. And it adds to their credentials and hopefully adds to our ability to deliver.
That was what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So, but it's not no cost. So
Yeah.
there's a research and development fund that Mr. Patel allowed me to start a few years ago that hasn't been burning. So we're going to use those funds to do this and hopefully add value.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. If there are no other questions, we're going to move on to the new business report. We have one slide for November 2025. I'll give you a moment to look it over, and if there are any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, hearing none, we're going to hear from Mr. Patel on our financial report. Mr. Patel, good morning.
Good morning. I'll start as I usually start. MES is doing very well financially so far this year. As you can see in the slide, our fiscal year 25 actual was 14,997,000. Fiscal year 26 actual is 15,812,000. And our budget, which is 4% over the last year, was set at 15,597,000. So fiscal year 26 actually actual is even better than the budgeted this year. Usually we do it at 4%, or we are at 5.43% higher than the last year. And as you are aware, the billable labor is the most critical criteria for MES's financial success and net earnings. Next slide, please. So here we are comparing 4 months. Previous year as of October 2024 and October 2025. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the labor sales are 5.43% over, which is $815,000 more than last year as of this time. When you have a higher labor sales, it adds more than double for our financial revenue, because the overhead is added, fringe is added on it. So 850,000 over is, you will see in the bottom line, the net earnings has a greater effect on that. Billable hours, last year was 470,928. This year, it is 483,882, which is 12,954 more billable hours than the last year, which is 2.75% increase in billable hours. So now, we have a billable hours increase, and we have a salary increases, so billable labor is increased. So we are doing very well so far. So if this continues, I'll show you on the last slide that what is our estimated net earnings will be for this year. You see, the previous year, the overhead expense was 5,381,000. This year, it is 5,255,000, a decrease of 126,000. Even after giving the salary increases to all employees, including overhead employees, we are less in overhead expense overall, the salary expense, the other expenses than last year, which is very good, surprising, and it may change in the later months, but this is what it is right now, is that the overhead expense is much less than last year. And the rest of it is as expected, but the increase and decrease in net assets, which is net earnings, is $497,000 more than the last year. And in the last slide, I'll let you know, this is 4 months. When we project it for the whole year, you will see a major difference over the budgeted. Revenues have increased by almost 6 million in just 4 months. So bottom line, we are doing financially very well. If this continues, and I'll show you what is the projected net earnings for it. So we will go to the next slide, please. So this is budget versus actual. The first column is full year, budget full year. When we do the budget, we look at the last year, revenues, expenses, and we are usually 4% over the last year because of the inflation and all that. We budget that way. There are some adjustments, but this is how it is budgeted. And if you look at the budget, we expected increase in net assets of $4.5 million. We have actual, it should be as of October, actual October 2025. So based on our financial results as of October, our full year estimate, we are expecting the labor sales to be 644,000 over the budget. So which is very good. Hopefully this trend will go on, but so far it is very well. The overhead expense, we had budgeted 17,922,000. We always budget as the salaries for overhead employees as if it's fully occupied and we have vacancy. And then we allow about 4% for the other expenses. So the way we are trending right now, the overhead expense budgeted was 17.9 million. Our full year estimate is 15.8 million. So our overhead expenses is lower by $2,125,000. And the rest of it is pretty standard. The main difference is in increase in net assets, which is net earnings, which we had budgeted 4.5 million. If this trend continues, and our estimates are very well calculated, so very likely we're going to end up with 7.3 million. That is 2.8 million over our budget. So as I say, financially it's looking very good. And for Dr. Glass, and when the board approves, we'll have some money to do something extra that we have not planned this year. And that's all my presentation. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
General question. So you're looking at this year up against 25 and 24. What was the trend maybe in the last 5 years in that same?
So we are doing better every year for last 5 years, but the significant overhead variance is consistent for last 3 years, which is the biggest difference in what we have budgeted and what we have net earnings, which is the reduction in overhead expense and increase in labor.
And you're still
So
increasing
that both
salaries.
factors, of course, we have to budget conservatively because we don't have flexibility in going over,
Right.
spending over that,
Yeah.
okay? So it is conservative budget, but we are doing much better for last few years, and mainly, as I say, overhead expense and increased labor sales.
And do you have something that you're attributing it to that that you would say that you would double down on and continue doing that same activity? I know it's related to the fact that you're increasing the billable hours. And will.
That's net assets for the last 5 years.
Oh, look
Yeah.
at that. I looked to my left and it's right here.
Right. Spelled that way, sorry.
I mean, we're in a continuous improvement environment and we use the strategic plan and key performance indicators to guide us. And so when we see anything that is a weakness, we, try to remedy it. And if we have strengths, now we can't go outside of the Chesapeake Bay region generally to sell. So it's just about mainly keeping our clients, and then if people come to us, we respond immediately and seek their business. And then try to be as efficient as we can for the overhead side.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we are going to move on to human resources next. I believe Dr. Gross is with us today.
I am. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We closed the month of October with a 3.30 vacancy rate, which included welcoming 16 new team members and losing 8 individuals with a workforce growth of 8. As you will see, our overall vacancy rate for MES only ending last week was 3.66. Happy to share that we welcomed 6 new team members yesterday with an additional 6 pending. And we are working actively to close the gap with the vacancies that we have remaining. Next slide, please. This shows what the headcount is by group. And again, we've instituted some new practices within the recruiting function to help close these vacancy rates by group in an even more quick rate than what we have been. Next slide, please. And during the month of November, we attended 12 recruiting events with 58% of them being diversity events. And we are still working on actively determining how we can measure the outcomes from all of our recruiting events. Any questions?
Sorry.
Yes. No learn.
I'm sorry, so as you look at those HR gaps, are you saying, so I was asking when I looked at that trend about the difference between 24 and 25 with the wastewater staff. Are you doing in the exit interview process something to determine why that one has more of that turnover and then how to recruit towards it?
Yes, so we have recently implemented an enhanced exit interview process where we're asking some very specific questions and getting that information. And I'll be doing analysis to see where there are trends, as well as where we're doing things wonderfully well and trying to replicate that and looking at where we have opportunities for some improvements. And the exit analysis will be reported out on a quarterly basis.
Wonderful, thank you. I was gonna ask, so beat me to it.
And where are the new vacancies being created, the 8 new vacancies? Are there specific projects or activities that MES has been picking up?
I can certainly check to find out exactly where they're coming from.
I mean, Melissa, do you want to speak to the tests?
We've added additional junior level staff out at PWI to support the growing work out there. That's where most of ours are.
And Amy on EDR?
Yeah, we've had some vacancies that are backfill positions, but we've had a couple of new positions. A facility safety coordinator position, another site operations manager, Off Creek to help with that increasing workload at our facility. So it's a combination of both.
And then I presented in August the list of 10 things that wastewater was going to do to help spend some of the money that they have. And so there's some leftover, there's still another division chief for engineering to replace Mr. Toro. And we had 2 engineering fellows, one of which is behind me. So there are there's a 10, I have to give you the whole list again, but some of those were new. Also division chief for administration to help with the paperwork load. And Ms. McGee has been promoted into that through the competition. And so that's one. So
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I have one more. About that. Leaving room for me to ask more questions.
I like the disclaimer.
Okay, moving on to procurement items and notification. Ms. Condra,
Morning, everyone.
good morning.
So procurement number 1, this is for the environmental operations group for the project Baltimore County Organic Composting project. The contractor is Sustainable Generation LLC. This is an extension to the contract. And this is the second one for the amount of $42,000 that provides the total contract amount to $209,000. And there's no MBE participation because it's a proprietary equipment lease only.
Move for removal of item.
Second.
Excellent. Are there any questions on procurement item number 1? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 2. Number 2 has been withdrawn. Sorry. Number 3.
This is for the environmental operations group again, for the project Brown Station Leachate pretreatment facility. It was awarded to Maryland Chemical Company Incorporated for the amount of $299,039.00. The MBE goal is 0%. This is due to it being a chemical, it's a chemical commodity purchase.
Okay, is there a motion for procurement item number 3?
I move for procurement item number 3.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of procurement item number 3, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And finally, Ms. Condra.
Yes. This was the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Division. This is for the Cox Creek DMCF capacity recovery. This is estimated to be going to be $12 million, and there's a 5% MBE goal set for this.
Okay, is there a motion for procurement item number 4?
I move for removal. I move for approval.
Thank you.
Item number-
Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question. Why is this an RFP and not an invitation for bids?
Yeah, it's gonna be a request for proposals because, well, this is the first time we've done a project like this before. It's gonna be a specialized construction RFP. We're envisioning a contractor, we're up to options on how best to recover the material from the water side, DMCF, and dry it in a pretty tight time frame. So that's RFP. We're looking for ideas. We're open to ideas that will be used. We're envisioning a dredging contractor coming in, possibly putting a dredge in that water side dike and bringing up the material into geotubes, but we're also open to filter presses and other options. So that's why it's an RFP.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are you
Madam
also-
Chair, I'm
Please.
sorry to interrupt anyone in the room.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna ask, how was this estimate developed? And then, will this item come back to the board once we have selected a proposal?
The estimate was developed looking at some smaller scale projects that we've done for some of our other clients over the last 5 or 6 years. At this point in time, this isn't like up to $12 million. We're hoping that it is less, or depending on the price per cubic yard that they can recover from the water side DMCF cell, it may be less, but I don't envision it coming back to the board unless there's another, which I actually a little bit winsome like answer, but unless there's an issue with the procurement.
Yeah, and if it's set at 12 million and if it's under, right, it wouldn't come back to the board, but obviously if it exceeds that 12 million, that it most likely, depending on where it lies, it might come back to the board, just as an RFI, probably not like a procurement item to be approved on, but letting you guys know an update on it.
That's helpful. And another follow-up question is, how public are these estimates? Like when we issue the RFP,
We
do the
don't,
bidders know that we have an estimate in mind for the project?
They
This
know, if they were following us, they know now.
they know now, yeah, but on the RFP, when we submit, we do not put an estimate out there.
Okay,
But this is a public meeting.
But this is a public meeting, so.
You could go look.
Mhm,
but is this the only forum where that estimate is expressed publicly? It's just this
Yes.
meeting? Okay.
yes.
But if they write a written, I'm sorry, because I'm in this, I think you and I are headed down the same road. So if they submit a question, you're gonna answer what the estimate is? And so if those who are coming in and submitting ask that.
So they
as a
usually
question-
don't, so because it has to be fair, right?
Uh-huh.
And if we don't publicly, besides from this forum, if we don't put it on the solicitation, it's not something that we share because again, it might have 12 million, but it might be more. So an RFP, is only an estimate and it's basically based on engineers' estimate, right? And so we can't share it because it's not a solid number. So we don't want to give them a 12 million and then they undercut themselves based on the work, and then we get a lot of change orders, right? And so that's why we look at what is the engineer's estimate, and to bring it forward to this group,
Yeah.
for this forum, to say, hey, it might be up to this based on, the engineer's estimate or prior work on a smaller scale that they probably put some,
Yeah.
they do.
So if, the reason I'm gonna clarify, so if I go and I submit, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you, do you have an engineer's estimate, right? And I'm gonna
We
ask
can.
that and ask you to answer everyone that same
So,
way.
so I don't know because I'm not my procurement, I don't think we can, even for Comar. It's not we cannot, for Comar, we cannot provide, the
So you would
budget.
answer that there's no.
No, yeah,
we're
we
not gonna
can't, yeah,
provide
we
that
can't
information.
provide that information.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to manage the
Yeah.
person who's going to see that 12 million and say, oh, they've got 12 million for it and go above it as a matter of course.
Yeah, but then it is, but they don't know
They
who
don't
else
know.
is bringing
Correct.
the.
Right.
what to the
They don't know the
table, right?
competition.
And then an RFP then is not, it's not like an IFB, right? An IFB is the lowest bid. An RFP is looking at the different processes and what is best for the project,
Yep.
right? So it's not bare, it's not only on price.
And this is after 10 years of smaller proposals and different pilot projects, or has it been that long, or is it like 8 years?
Well, they've been working on over the years, but this is the first, we've done some very small
Yeah.
projects, a lot of MES has self-performed, some in the past, but this is.
Harbor Rock and
Yeah, those type of projects. This is the first. In their long-term capacity plan, there is a goal for a certain amount each year and scaling up over the next, 5 to 10 years. This is part of that process.
Okay.
it's $200 a cubic yard, which is, the tipping fee is $32 a cubic yard right now. Or 30 something.
It might be something.
We're reevaluating.
So.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approval of procurement item number 4, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. We have 2 slides of procurement notifications, which are contracts, purchase orders, amendments, and change orders between the amount of $25,000 and $200,000. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Readers?
Okay, hearing none.
Question on,
Sorry.
the purchase order for Carter Machinery Company. It says the project is insurance claims. What's that all about? The top one.
On the second bit. Oh, wait, yours is broken out. 655, it's $170,524. See it?
Yeah.
That environmental ops?
Again,
Board,
Ford.
It could be ours. I have to get the information off the PO.
Oh,
Poplar.
it's Poplar Island.
Yeah, it was a dump truck.
It was a dump truck incident that
Oh, the
overturned,
articulated truck, yeah.
and that is to rebuild the cab, replace the cab.
So is it against the state's insurer or against some other insurer? Who's paying?
State.
State Insurance Trust Fund? Okay. All right, thank you.
That makes a big relief for me because I was in with Jackie Gleason, hubbada moment, because I didn't know, I wasn't aware of any insurance claims, and I'm like, oh, great.
I'm gonna go look and find that.
I
Okay,
dated
any other-
myself with that
Any other
reference.
question? Especially for Mr. Ford? All right, hearing none, we are up to legal report, Ms. Carroll. Good morning, Ms. Carroll.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I am very pleased to report that on December 10th, our office will be welcoming a new team member. Mr. Bruce Eisenstein will be joining us. I hope to introduce him to you at the next board meeting. He will come to us with more than 20 years of legal experience. He has a very broad background that will make him a very good fit for our office. He's experienced in litigation, environmental law, contract law, ethics, and real estate, among other areas, and has a very interesting background. We'll do a more detailed introduction in December. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for legal? All right, hearing none. We are flipping right through this agenda. Group updates. We're going to start in Poplar Island.
Good morning, everyone. Eric Menzer is here to give the environmental dredging and restoration group update this month on some ongoing activities and tasks they're working on at Poplar Island.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me this opportunity to present at today's board of directors meeting. So I'm going to start off right here. This presentation offers a glimpse into one of the 22 restoration cells that make up Poplar Island, a large-scale environmental restoration project in the Chesapeake Bay. Each cell on the island serves a specific purpose in rebuilding lost habitat using dredge material in the Baltimore Harbor Channel. The cell highlighted in today's presentation demonstrates how engineering and ecology come together to create a wetland that support a wide variety of wildlife. In projects like this, Poplar Island show how beneficial reuse of dredge material can restore vital island habitats while maintaining navigation in the bay. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of cell 7, which we'll be discussing in this presentation. The top is the finished product and the bottom is when we started to excavate this cell. MES began excavating wetland cell 7 on May 1st, 2023, and completed inflow preparations on October 9th, 2025, spanning a total of 2 years, 5 months, and 9 days. During this time, approximately 411,800 parts of material were removed through mechanical excavation, achieving a final grade of -8 feet relative to the Poplar construction datum. The work prepares the cell for future dredge material inflow and habitat development. The excavated material will use to elevate the upland cell dikes, ensuring structural stability and proper containment during future inflow events. This effort was made possible through close collaboration among MES departments, including survey, environmental, fleet management, and the operations team on Poplar Island, with critical support from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Maryland Port Administration. Next slide, please. Preparing Cell 7 was not always straightforward or easy. Several obstacles slowed progress, including unpredictable weather conditions on the island and inconsistent material being removed from the cell, which complicated ongoing evaluations. Wildlife activity also played a significant role in temporarily halting excavation. Despite challenges, adjusting strategies and continuously reassessing circumstances allowed the team to maintain momentum and keep making progress on the project. Next slide, please. Spillways are gates that allow the release of excess water during dredge material inflow and the drying process of the cell. Spillway 17, this is here, assigned to cell 7, required repair to its interior wall to prevent bay water from entering the cell. The repair involves steel, wooden boards, foam, caulk, and a cement truck navigating logistical challenges. Fillable flow material was poured into the constructed form to seal the wall and stop water intrusion. This repair represented one of the final steps in preparing the cell for dredge material inflow. Next slide, please. Over the next 4 years, the 49-acre Cell 7 is scheduled to receive 4 inflow events, delivering a total of approximately 1,117,000 cubic yards of dredge material from the Baltimore Harbor approach channel. To put this into reference, this would fill the Baltimore Aquarium tanks 102 times. Each inflow, yes, pretty amazing, isn't it? Each inflow will be carefully monitored to ensure proper distribution and settling of the material within the cell. Following each inflow event, Cell 7 will enter a drying phase known as crust management, during which surface water is allowed to evaporate and sediment consolidates to form a stable surface. Once adequately dried, the cell will be graded to meet designed about elevations and contours, preparing it for planting of native vegetation. This final stage will mark the completion of a 16-year restoration effort, transforming Cell 7 into a thriving wetland habitat that will provide long-term ecological benefits for the Chesapeake Bay region. That's it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
So that cement truck has to be barged out and then barged off.
Yeah, that was a tough logistical challenge there. And we wanted to mitigate any extra costs because it was very expensive per day to rent that truck. And it is very expensive to barge things to and from the island. So we shared some barges with some contractors that are out there at the moment to limit some of the reduce some of the cost. Yep.
Thank you.
All righty. So last month, if you recall, we talked about the tipping floor project at the Prince George's County MRF, and its sister project was the upgrades to the system there. And presenting today for us is Rebecca Culler. She came to us from Frederick County. We're very fortunate to have her. She's one of our young stars. She's a Deputy Division Chief for Solid Waste. And with that, Rebecca, take it away.
Wonderful, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. I am here today to chat with you about the Prince George's County MRF, or Materials Recovery Facility, located in Upper Marlboro, here in Maryland. So as you know, during the month of October, we shut down the processing portion of the facility in order to do a significant equipment upgrade. At the same time, in order to take advantage of the fact that we couldn't do any other real work in processing, we would update and repair our concrete tipping floor. So we performed that work in tandem in 2 stages, and basically use our facility instead of as a processing facility as a transfer station. We shut down half of the floor at a time for repair and use the other half to accept and transfer material. And I'll explain a little bit more about those logistics in a moment. Before I get too far, I want to be sure to call out my team, Michael Bell, who is the site operations manager, Angie Webb, who is the head of marketing, and then also our engineering teams, Matt Abresh and Max Bettinger. All of those people ensured continued absolute perfection with contractor performance, coordination, and overall just logistical, they're aces. So they were great. Next slide, please. Overall, the upgrades included $2.8 million in what we call the front end portion of our facility. These are the fiber diversion areas. It included a baler feed conveyor line, 3 screens, and a glass breaker. All of those were installed, and this photo identifies the equipment that was replaced. So it looks almost the same, except cleaner and newer. So this is the before, because you can clearly see each portion. Next slide, please. So in order to consider this project a success, we had to divert the material that comes into the facility. And as you know, Prince George's is rather large. We wanted to ensure that there was no recycling disruption to the residents or the businesses of the county. In order to do that, we needed to divert about 250 tons of recycled material a day for 4 weeks. That's approximately 5,000 tons of material overall for the course of the project. For reference, the photo on the top there is roughly 200 tons of recycling on the floor. So you kind of get an idea of what that looks like visually. First, we coordinated with WM Olive Street Processing to take about 100 tons off of our hand before it even showed up at our facility. We worked with the Prince George's County's contracted haulers in order to make that diversion happen. For the remaining 150 tons roughly per day, we used half of that tipping floor, 1/2 at a time. And here you can see the concrete barriers. While we were doing work on one side, we were using the other side. We coordinated hauling. We used our floor as a transfer station. We coordinated hauling with Balsam Hauling, which you all approved. Thank you very much. And we hauled to 3 separate locations: WM in Elkridge, that's the Kit Kat facility; Penn Waste in York, Pennsylvania; and finally Republic in Manassas, Virginia. Originally, this was a pretty challenging project. Initially, we only had 1 alternate location planned. They told us that they could take all of our material at WM in Elkridge. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks into the process, they informed us they could not handle our material. And so quick turnaround, and this is where I say my team was really aces. We managed to pivot, and Penn Waste was brought on board basically seamlessly. The coordination was very, very quick to handle. And thank you very much also to our procurement team for all of these changes, because they were also very agile as we moved in this process. About a week after that, Penn Waste told us they also could no longer take the majority of our material. And so we once again pivot, and we went again seamlessly to Republic in Manassas. Thank you very much to Angie for coordinating all of those changes. Please go ahead with the next slide. This slide demonstrates the equipment upgrade. As you can see on the left, that is our old screen. On the new screen is on the right. Basically, this really, in a nutshell, demonstrates the increase in efficiency of the screens. So for those who are unfamiliar, these screens basically process fiber or 2D material over the top and allow bulkier 3D items to fall in between the bars onto waiting conveyors for the second half of processing in the MRF. So basically what this upgrade did was we took our old design screen and we installed what we call anti-wrap technology. The biggest problem in a MRF is tanglers, and the primary tangler in all of recycling throughout the country is plastic bags. They're very stretchy and that film wraps around the screen and it blocks the screen from doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So in addition to increased efficiency in processing, we also had to clean these screens every night at the end of the facility run. And this has decreased our cleaning time from about 4 hours a night to about a half an hour every night on these screens. So it's an increase in both quality, but also efficiency, and we're able to move our labor to other necessary areas of the plant. And then one more final slide. So while the facility was down for the work on the screens, we took the opportunity again to simultaneously perform other necessary maintenance on the equipment. The two principal projects being the fiber bunker conveyor, that's the middle photograph there, and the elliptical machine paddles there on the right-hand side. The elliptical handles containers, and that fiber line goes up to our baler, so that can combine seamlessly with the new in-feed conveyor that we added to our baler. And once again, a massive shout out to the MRF staff who undertook massive cleaning projects. They changed all the lighting in the facility. They painted all of our facility, updating all of that yellow, making sure that it's nice and bright and clean and safe for employees to work there every day. Our mechanic team was aces. Everyone was really great. And we managed $2.8 million project. And we're really, really very proud of how we were able to manage that. So thank you to my team. And that's all I've got. Any questions? Oh, yes. So I forgot. I'm so sorry. The return to production. This is just a video of the screens in action. These are our fiber lines moving.
And if I can just elaborate, so we all understand, paper floats on the top, containers would drop. Both of those materials have value to us, but if the tanglers are allowed to build up, those containers don't drop through and become contaminants in the fiber line. So we lose both the revenue from the containers that we get and contaminate the fiber. So really cool technology to help us fix that problem.
And do I have any questions? Or
I do have a question, more so on the markets.
Sure.
How strong are the markets, particularly for plastic and glass?
At the moment, plastic is not the strongest that it's been. We are competing very strongly right now with virgin material. So when pricing decreases on petroleum products, prices for virgin plastic material are much lower. And so the mills aren't as inclined to buy recycled. Now, the good news there is that legislation across the country is going into place over probably the next couple of years in order to ensure that manufacturers buy recycled first. Right now, the plastic markets are not particularly good. They're pretty low. Not terrible. They're not in the dumps like they were during the China sword about 8-10 years ago, but they are definitely lower than we would like. For glass is a really super interesting market. There are a lot of initiatives going on locally, and actually what we're hoping to move forward with in the next couple months is investigating using MRF, we call it MRF glass, is pretty dirty. There are some industries who are starting to want that glass and to grind it down and use it as an alternative for aggregate. Specifically sand, beach glasses, or I'm so sorry, beach sand is one of the things down in Ocean City that needs to be constantly replenished. And there is an industry beginning looking at using glass, cleaning it and grinding it down back into sand. So the market for glass is almost always kind of a net zero. There's not really a market to buy it, but there's also not necessarily a cost to getting rid of it because the folks who use it wind up using it as aggregate.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I know that I, for one, always really enjoy a good recycling update because it affects all of us every day. So thank you. Water, wastewater.
Good morning, everyone. Today, two of our newest team members, they will share their insights from the most recent membrane inspection at Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant. Yusuf, he is our associate engineer, and Fabi Sachi, our water and wastewater engineering fellow. They both joined us, MES, about 4 weeks ago, and they already made a significant impact.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ezzy, for the nice introduction. Like she said, I'm Kofi Kevin TG, and I'm a water wastewater and engineering fellow.
Yusuf, associate engineer.
Today, we're going to give you our presentation on our recent visit at Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant. Before I start, here's a quick agenda. We'll start with a brief introduction to the Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant, followed by a brief overview of our membrane bioreactor. From there, we'll walk through our recent inspection and cleaning that took place at Rocky Gap, highlighting our key observations. Before looking ahead at future improvements, finally, we'll wrap it up with our conclusion and lessons learned. We'll then open the floor for any questions. Here is a picture of our Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant, a Department of Natural Resources facility, which was upgraded to a membrane bioreactor in 2018. It has a capacity of 150,000 gallons per day. And here's a couple other nice things to know about it. The influence sources are our beautiful Rocky Gap State Park, a Rocky Gap Casino, a church, and a house. It discharges to the Rocky Gap Run, which is classified as used 3P waters. Next slide, please. During our visit at the Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant, we also had the opportunity to tour the entire facility, thus giving us the ability to have a more in-depth understanding of the entire process. That being said, here's what we can say about our membrane bioreactor system at Rocky Gap wastewater treatment plant. At Rocky Gap, they have 2 basins. Each basin has 4 MBR units. Each of these units has 11 modules, and each module has 40 ceramic plates. Now, these ceramic plates have not always been implemented. In fact, we only started using them in 2023 in place of the formerly used polymeric membranes. Another fun fact is there's a cleaning in place that takes place every 2 months using effluent water.
And that'll be relevant when we talk about the membrane inspection and then pulling it out. To clean the membranes, you don't need to pull them out. There's a clean in place cycle, but this was an opportunity to inspect them and to do further cleaning. Back to Kofi.
Here's a schematic of one of these basins with the 4 MBR units, as I mentioned. So can. Next slide, please. On the left is a picture of one of our disassembled units. This was taken during the cleaning process. In the middle, we have one of our units with the 40 plates. Not gonna count for you, but you can see there's 40 plates. And finally, on the right, it's a picture of just the cross section of one of these ceramic plates, which we forgot to bring to you today. Hand it over to Yusuf.
Okay, next slide, please. So this was an inspection by the manufacturer, but the MES staff and operations team took advantage of that to do their own inspection. We want to thank them for showing us around. We asked a lot of questions. They had a lot of expertise. And once the manufacturer pulled out the modules, you see some action shots there. Some of it's regular sludging and some of its observations we'll discuss, namely ragging and redworms. We can go to the next slide, please. So what is ragging? It's the formation of stringy clumps of tangled masses, hair, fibers, quote unquote flushable layers, fibers, filamentous sludge, all of that forms these large features that almost look like beards, like a costume beard if you were to pick it up. This increases pressure on the membrane, reduces efficiency, and in extreme cases can damage plates. Now, the MES staff put multi-barrier screening throughout the process. The video that you see looped on the right is an example of that screening going into the MBR tank that Kofi described for you guys. Despite these measures, we continue to investigate long-term solutions. The easiest solution is people not putting that stuff into the plant, but you have to deal with the cards you're dealt. Next slide, please. So this is some further ragging on the diffuser assembly. This is the disassembled MBR unit. You can see there's challenges with ragging down to the cross-section of the diffusers. The manufacturer proposed a maintenance-free diffuser. This is something that MES staff has to test and vet, and it'll deal with issues such as this. Next slide, please. Redworms. Our friends to the right are larvae of midge flies. For scale, they get as big as a credit card. Smaller can be, up to 4 or 5 numbers up that same credit card. They thrive due to high nutrients, and we're investigating dissolved oxygen levels. The challenge is they can survive in low DO, low dissolved oxygen pockets, and they won't mind using high DO as well. So they're pretty resilient redworm, larvae that we see. However, we'll talk about potential solutions on the next slide and continued investigations. So the EPA has a biological larvicide that's approved. Any introduction of chemicals, you can affect the microbes in the tank, you can affect plant performance, you can produce byproducts. So we can't hastily add pesticides, chemicals to our processes without first evaluating them thoroughly. Dissolved oxygen adjustment, whether that's lowering or increasing the dissolved oxygen depending on the utilization by the redworms. And then finally, diffusers that you saw. We alluded to the manufacturer having maintenance-free diffusers. That's the cross-section that you see in the image on the right. There's less opportunities for ragging as you see there. However, this has to be tested by MES staff to evaluate. Next slide, please. So conclusions. The membranes are working. They're in great condition. Despite these operational challenges, ragging and redworms have been observed, and these maintenance-free diffusers need to be evaluated. We need data on them. That's one of the units going back in, nice and clean. And we want to thank the MES staff at Rocky Gap. It's a beautiful state park. If you haven't been out there, go out there. We're looking for every excuse to go back. So when they install these diffusers, Kofi and I will be taking a visit back to Rocky Gap. Any questions on the next slide?
Furthermore, you can see how beautiful that is.
We hit it at a good time.
Thank you. I think we're all now going to have nightmares about redworms. Thank you. Moving on to Tess.
Good morning. The update for Tess this month is gonna come to us from Kayla Rue. Kayla is gonna talk about one of the stormwater projects that she spearheaded. She leads our engineering team in TES. Spoiler alert, no worms in this presentation. Thanks, Kayla.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I'll be talking about a project we did for the community of Washington Grove. So this community is located within Montgomery County. It is comprised of 2/3 of the town is the east and west woods. So this is actually very unique to this area because this community is surrounded by very highly developed and urbanized areas. So it's a very beautiful town. And there's great recreational opportunities and use within the woods for the residents that live within Washington Grove, including the renowned private Maple Lake. So Washington Grove had been working with the Montgomery County Green Bank in the development of an action plan for climate change resilience. And the Montgomery County Green Bank approached MES to provide support in identifying potential opportunities and projects for consideration for this plan. Next slide. So Washington Grove is experiencing significant deterioration of the West Woods due to unmanaged stormwater runoff. There's excessive erosive flows being introduced to the stream that runs parallel to Maple Lake within the West Woods. This is resulting in greatly incised channels, as you can see from the picture. It is resulting in damage to surrounding trees and fencing within the woods, as well as increased sediment deposition within the channel after large rain events. Washington Grove had previously had studies completed within the West Woods, which did identify this as a stream restoration opportunity. And they were also in active progress of implementing some small stormwater management projects within the town itself to help manage some of their stormwater runoff. Our task was to assist the community in identifying potential alternative opportunities for consideration beyond what they've already received from recommendations or were actively pursuing. Next slide. So we did review previous studies and efforts that were done, as well as met with Washington Grove and conducted a site visit. And there are 3 outfalls that discharge to the West Woods. Outfalls 1 and 2 are on the southwest side of the West Woods, and these discharge to the eroded stream that runs parallel to Maple Lake. From our observations, there was a lot of instability and disconnection, contributing to the erosive flows within this region of the West Woods, and also contributing to the erosion being experienced within that stream channel. Outfall 3 is actually on the east side of the West Woods, and this is receiving discharge from the adjacent community called Town Crest. It's an apartment complex. And we did a desktop analysis, and from our observation, there was no apparent stormwater management facilities within Town Crest. So this stormwater runoff was contributing increased pollutant loads to the West Woods. And so we developed, as part of our recommendations, 2 concepts, one of which was an outfall stabilization project, and the other was a retention pond. Next slide. So first, at outfalls 1 and 2, we propose an outfall stabilization project. Our recommendation consisted of a regenerative storm conveyance, which is a type of stream restoration technique that utilizes boulders and pools to slow flow. And these RSCs are typically designed to safely convey up to the 100-year storm discharge rates, as well as the pools provide some flood retention, but these practices do promote groundwater infiltration and offer a natural habitat. There would be disturbance to the woods during construction, but it was determined this would be less of an impact compared to other projects that were considered, such as a detention pond within this area of the woods. However, a detention pond would provide greater flood management and control of erosive flows. Next slide. And then at outfall 3, we did propose a retention pond. So this would provide both water quality and water quality management. And so the pond would have a permanent pool, and this would allow for pollutants to settle to the bottom of the pond. And then above that permanent pool, there would be temporary storage during larger rain events. And this would provide quantity management or flood control, as well as the discharge of the temporary storage would be at a more controlled flow, helping to reduce erosion experienced in this area of the Westwoods. However, the greatest concern with the potential project was the disturbance to the Westwoods. And this would be predominantly a permanent disturbance. So from our approximation, it would be anywhere from 1.2 to almost 2 acres of disturbed forest in this area. Additionally, the stormwater runoff that would be managed within this facility is actually coming from the adjacent community of Towncrest. And so this is not actually the responsibility of Washington Grove to manage. And this size project would be a significant design effort as well as cost. And so for implementation, we did propose seeking potential partnership either with Towncrest or with Montgomery County for potential implementation. Next slide. And so from our recommendations, we did compile a final report. We did provide additional information such as maintenance needs and cost estimates for these potential projects and provided to Washington Grove and Montgomery County Green Bank for consideration for potential future implementation. Any questions? Yes.
Sorry, can you go back a slide? So the result of this is trying to get either Montgomery County, I mean, this seems like a developer problem.
For Towncrest, yes,
Yeah.
but at the time of when it was developed, they may not have had a requirement for their stormwater management, so that's continuously ongoing. Stormwater management really moved forward in, I believe it's the 80s, and it was primarily focused on quantity management, so flood control. They had a large shift to more of a water quality focus to improve the conditions of the bay. But actually, in more recent times, they're now going back into the middle, and we're actually currently assisting MDE with they're updating their regulations and stormwater manual design criteria. And they're going back into finding a middle ground on both water quality and treatment.
That was what I was, where I was headed in that question. Excellent. Washington Grove is such a cute little place.
It's super, and it's especially if you look at it from an aerial imagery, it's just all these woods and it's completely urbanized everywhere.
Everything around it.
It's very cute. It used to be, I think they said it was an old like camping area. So out of town folks would come in. It's a lot of small close housing, a lot of A-frames, but it's very pretty. It's like just walking through a natural park.
Oh, one of the toughest public meetings I ever had was in Washington Grove. Oh yeah, I was like, oh, what a cute place, and then it was like fire.
We did get to work with a lot of. They have a Westwoods committee that's primarily focused on what they could do to maintain the Westwoods. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. We are moving on to old and new business, and I do believe Mr. Botts would like to introduce a concept. Mr. Botts?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it also is included in the board packet. So I had shared a memo with the board, and we discussed it in an audit committee meeting last month. And generally, the proposal and the idea is that MES should conduct a thorough review of the different functions and processes and tasks within the different divisions to determine and find out what, if any, of those tasks can be automated using advanced AI tools. And the memo itself kind of walks through, what that process could look like, and that's what is on the screen here. But in terms of like a process and structure of study, I mean, I think what is in the memo is more of just an idea. And I would assume MES would develop its own process and approach and methodology to doing this. But I do think that there's likely a lot of opportunities for automation and efficiency on a lot of the tasks that happen within MES. And, the idea initially generated for me, when Dr. Glass was talking through the workday, process that MES has introduced to help with the HR, questions and common, things that come up dealing with HR. And I think through the workday process had developed an AI assistant. And we have something similar internally where I work, and it's extremely helpful. And I think saves quite a bit of time. And Dr. Glass spoke a little bit briefly earlier in today's meeting about an internal staffer who had previously worked at Microsoft, offering a few presentations on the capabilities of Copilot and how it could help automate and improve some of the workflows internally at MES. I think it's great, but I also think it's a little unusual that MES would be getting that training from somebody internally and not somebody directly from Microsoft. I would think Microsoft probably has those types of trainings available and already prepared. And I'm not sure, if there was any discussion on that. But these tools are constantly advancing and changing every day. And to really keep up, I think you really have to, keep up on the trainings and keep up on the new products and services. And I'm not involved with any of the communications between MES and Microsoft on that, but I assume that there is some discussion of that. Given that MES already uses Microsoft, I think it would make sense to involve Microsoft in a review like this. But I mean, there are obviously other ways to do it as well. So what I'm suggesting here is that the agency conduct such a review, and then report back, I think, to the board on what the findings were and potentially what the next steps are.
So when you say agency, you mean internal?
Yes.
And Dr. Glass, do you have any input?
So, I focus at MES on self-performance. We are stewards of clients' money, and then a lot of that, 65% of our revenue is from other state agencies. And then another 30% are from counties and municipal governments. So we have pushed hard on IT over the last few years so that we do have a chatbot function on our own data, on our internal intranet. And I don't know, I don't keep track of whether we were the first state entity to do it, but I think we were a leading state entity to do it. And then now we've turned on these higher level functions. I rely on the managing directors in their business lines, which no one is an expert in all of those four groups, to keep track of advances in the technology. And, we are constantly looking for innovative ways to meet our clients' needs and to improve internally. So, my answer is, if the board were to, move and second and vote for MES to perform a formal review, then we would do so. I just know that we are doing this in conjunction with our regular work already. And I don't know if those resources, Microsoft, if we were to go to Microsoft to ask them to perform a review of our operational functions, the first thing they would do is say, well, teach us about your operational functions. And then they would charge a Microsoft style value for it. And now we have obviously a large agreement with them, and we can have add-ons to that probably do not cross any procurement lines, but I would rely on procurement to tell me that. So my general answer, as I'm just, ideating in front of you, is that I don't know if the delta for the potential outcome the delta in ROI from what we're doing already, and then the resources to a large entity like that for a disparate technological support network. You know, I'm doing all kinds of academic talk. So all I'm saying is all of these disparate, so we are always looking. It's embedded in a lot of the software products that our operating groups are utilizing right now. And every time I ask them about something in water, wastewater, or in environmental operations, or with some of the applications for dredging is the only one I don't think that I ever hear an example of anything, except for they have water operations too. Long story short is we'll do whatever the board directs us to do. I just know that we're doing more than most state entities are, and we are constantly learning from the system. So I wouldn't say that we need a formal direction to do more, because we're already doing a lot and we're embedding it in everything we do every day. So I don't know if that answers any questions. It's a roundabout way of saying we will continue to update the board on everything we do with engaging AI. And all of the software products we buy are doing this too. So I would rather, before a formal direction, just give you a list of all of the things that we do, and then get feedback from you as I put them in director's reports and put them in the monthly report. That would be my suggestion, Madam Chair.
It's funny. I think you were reading my mind because I was thinking along the same lines. Maybe we take this under advisement at this point in time, and you keep us abreast of how AI is being implemented into the day-to-day, and we can go from there.
Can I ask a question? Earlier in the meeting, you mentioned something that the governor's office had issued. Have they given any direction to state agencies to undertake this kind of review?
So this is one of those scenarios where if you can imagine anything in government having all these levels, right?
I can imagine that.
You can imagine that. And so, what I'm trying to describe is that at every level, there is a dotted line to a private sector entity that is trying to sell their services to the state, to the counties, every level and every conference, at every interaction. There's someone, because now basically it's an arms race of a technological arms race. On the way in, I'm hearing about the billions that Meta, Google, and Microsoft are investing in data centers, and they're borrowing now. These companies that used to be cash hoards are now borrowing in the tunes of tens of billions of dollars in this race. And so that trickles down to TeamSolve and Virtuosity and people that could say they will build you a bot. And so, instead of someone telling us to build a bot, we've got technology, we got IT professionals that can build some services for us. And then we have the products we buy, doing their own. And then our IT, your IT, MES IT will say, we haven't turned on all the functions in Workday because we don't trust them yet. Right? So in that process that we're going through is we're organically in time turning on things, knowing that they're secure when we do. And that's where we are. And it's just so literally I shared a book with Mr. Coleman 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago it was 3 years ago, because that's when ChatGPT came out, on prompts and how it's going to be used. And instantaneously, he found that it was hallucinating, or maybe that was Carol now, hallucinating on legal concepts, right? So anyway, so this is a step. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So I was headed in very much the same direction. So I think there are two different points. One related to the use of internal resources for training, and then the second kind of questions. I think as we're watching this unfold, what I experienced in the past with state agencies and their reluctance to accept that Instagram and Facebook were not going to go away, right? And their slow adoption, that we need to be somewhere in between. We don't need to be the first adopter, but we also don't need to be the last adopter to the technology. And I appreciate the strategy that you're currently approaching this with, which is a little bit slower and measured, but also implementing the things as you feel they are safe. And that is the biggest key to me, is being a good steward of public funds, safety and security of whatever we do. You know, the one question I continue to ask as AI is evolving is, so who owns this data? Who gets access to the data? Where does it sit? How do we protect it? And so your process to me at the moment, as you continue to report out on a monthly basis, to me seems like a good strategy. And I would love, though, to kick it down the road. I don't think you don't do an audit. I just don't know if auditing is right at this moment, as things are still changing and evolving so quickly. So that's part one. Part two, as it relates to using internal resources. My assumption, but you can correct my assumption, is that the person that you're using or the resource you're using internally is interested in this and is probably staying up to date on the things as they are changing. And by coming from Microsoft, has insight into the use of technology in ways that you sometimes don't even know the entry into the space. And so I appreciate having an internal resource as opposed to an external resource. As a consultant, I am going to sell you every day. And I live in that space of constant sell. And so when you're thinking about something like this, using your internal resource who has no need to upsell,
Right.
to me has a very high value. And so I would be less inclined actually to want to go to a Microsoft or a larger entity to help support an audit or help support a training, because their goal number one is, now how do we upsell you off of what you've just learned? So I do commend you on using your internal resource, and think that continuing to do that. Maybe what I would suggest is, if you are going to use that internal resource, that you make sure that that resource is getting the opportunity to get updated, so that they can continue to offer that support to the organization. So
I will say too, that the approach that Mr. Sharma has taken in terms of building out his IT group, beyond just the Microsoft hire, we have a Workday architect that is on staff that is also helping us with that deployment, and being, as you said, more deliberate in our approach and what we choose to implement and when. So
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to interrupt. Was there other comment in the room?
Yeah, I just a couple of things. Number one, I think we need to think about not only today, but what's happening down the road. So that we're preparing for that. The second thing is, okay to have the various programs to do things, but I think the information that we get from one should be in a position where it could be summed with others. So we don't have data and everything is different and you can't add them together.
Right.
So I think it's important that we take that there. So think about not only today, but think about what is our dream for us 5 years down the road, and how could that impact the data we have today? So that we don't, kind of do something that we can't use.
And I think that's a great point that you brought up. A lot of the data that we do have isn't our data, it's our clients' data.
Yes.
And it's important that we maintain their data governance requirements. We have our own data governance requirements, and be able to provide the assurances to the people we're supporting that we're not going to have something that ends up being a release of information that we shouldn't have released. So
yeah, that's the part I want.
So one of the things you remind me of is that if one of our clients was to go from $30 million down to $5 million a year, that changes significantly what we're doing and how we might be able to get it to be done much better and cheaper. So size is important as well as distance. So it says all these things are important. Well, let's have important information that we're going to use as we go.
Yeah, so just a couple of comments, in response. I understand the strain on internal resources and, the reluctance to want to engage in a process or a new audit that would draw out a lot of resources. But I will say that we don't know what we don't know, and I think um I think Dr. Glass, like you talked about, I mean, there are companies and different products and services that come to you and you learn kind of more about those every day as they come in. But I don't think it's a holistic understanding of what is available today and and how it could actually help improve the agency's efficiency. But I will say that I think two things I think would be helpful, at least from my perspective. Rather than piecemeal in each of these meetings, I think it would be good to just get maybe an overview of what has been done to date and where we're using these tools and products today, and how they're helping. And then also what you see on the near horizon or the near term of changes related to these different types of products and services. I think additionally, it would be helpful to understand how the state initiated the process that, led to the partnership that was announced a few weeks ago by Governor Moore. Obviously they see value in such a process and engagement. And, it looked like it was limited to 4 agencies, and I haven't read it in great detail. But and I can't say what had happened, but I think it would be very helpful and useful, at least in the context of this conversation, to understand how that came about, and then what the plan is for that as it moves forward. But I will say, I do think it's a kind of a missed opportunity if we don't examine this a little closer. And I think limiting our knowledge to a single internal person who used to work at a company, I think is not the best way to proceed on keeping folks up to date and keeping new information flowing within the agency. I mean, in my day job, I mean, I hear every day about how these tools are changing, how the products and services are changing, and it's mind blowing and it's fascinating. And I think, not a single person or even a single company is going to be aware of, everything that could help, or everything that's available to help. So, I would suggest, if the board doesn't think undertaking a full audit is useful at this point, that we do get the overview of what's happening now, kind of the state of where we're at now with this, and then some understanding of what process the state had gone through to get to the announcement that they're at, and what they're also hoping to achieve in terms of next steps with that announcement and that engagement with Anthropic.
Sounds like a great middle ground for us to sit down and internally, and we'll come up with a comprehensive list over the next month or two. If you give us a couple months, let's get through the holidays and have a separate meeting, maybe through one of the committees, and sit down and give you an overview of all the ways we're engaging. It's not just relying on the internal person. We're engaging, as I've listed, with lots of different entities, large and small. And we have lots of people. We actually turned on for one of the hyper users of the free product. We just decided, talking with Mr. Powers and IT, I was like, well, the top 10 people that are using Copilot without it being the higher end version should participate, even though they're not in the executive class or anything. And so to stimulate hyper users to actually prepare work products, anyway, but yeah, so definitely give us a couple months and we'll dive down in each of the operating groups so they can show you how the optical sorters have AI machine learning in them at the MERF, and how the SCADA systems at the water and wastewater treatment plants for the new ones have AI machine learning and how they predict what the plants are doing and when the alarms go off, et cetera. So I'll prepare that for you so you know how comprehensively we're all staying engaged on the topic.
I appreciate that. And then I think we could have more discussion, I think, from there about what potential opportunities are still available.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone, for your input. I feel as though that was a very robust conversation, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. The only other business we have is the announcement for next month's meeting, which is Thursday, December 18th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving and stay warm as the temperatures start plummeting. I'm not ready for it, I'm sure.
Not at all.
Many others aren't. Thank you. So happy Thanksgiving, and we will see everybody again in December.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.